guest this evening is a longtime supporter of the vampire goth and industrial lifestyle. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts virtual studio from House Akcros, Max.
How you doing?
I am doing well, sir. How are you?
I'm good.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us be a part of the virtual vampire ball bash this year.
You?
Yeah. So we were talking pre-show about a number of different things, which I loved. And for people out there that perhaps are not in the underground scene and maybe don't quite understand everything that's going on with we'll start with the Vampires Ball. Where did this idea come from, and what can you tell me about it?
Okay, the idea of actually House Akcros came from a friend of myself. We were both into the vampire scene and the occult for a while. And we were going out in Pittsburgh, noticing that the scene, go to a couple of goth nights. And we noticed like there were 3 or 4 of them separated and broken up. Same DJs, same crowds. And we thought like, this needs some kind of organization. You know, it's like, for lack of a better term, some kind of organization. All these nights, everybody's hearing the same thing. So we decided that to develop House Akcros, and under the name of House Akcros, it would be a way to bring together all these goth nights and the scene and kind of reunite the scene, bring it back like the old style goth, where everybody was there and everybody was hanging out and just enjoying yourselves.
Very cool. And was that when you're bringing, and I completely understand what you're saying, that the scene was kind of fragmented, so you wanted to kind of bring it together.
Yeah.
Did it come together pretty quickly, or did it kind of take some time?
It's still taking time. It's still taking time. I mean, it's like what I've noticed with the goth scene and the underground scene, even in the vampire community, it's kind of, you're a little apprehensive to let people in. I mean, just because as a whole, the goth scene, people tend to look, ridicule us and make fun of, oh, you guys are black, the depressed crowd and all that nonsense like that. So it takes a little while to gain the trust of everybody. The benefit that I had is I've been around here in Pittsburgh in the scene. I've been around here for quite some time. So I was kind of like a known face. So that helped somewhat. And as I come back into the scene and people see what we're about and that we mean no harm, it starts to open up. It's a shame because this third ball that we were going to put on, that we're doing virtual with you guys, it was destined to be the bigger one. It's like this was number 3 and it was picking up and we gained momentum and ta-da, COVID. So, here we are trying to make the best of what it is.
Yeah, no, that I don't know how many different guests I've talked to that said that 2020, man, I got so many plans. It was going to be this, and this, and then the pandemic happened, and as we talk pre-show, then it becomes okay. So what are you going to do next? Are you going to pivot? Are you going to wallow in self-pity? What are you going to do? And you chose to pivot.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that early on I started noticing. I was like, we talked earlier about that, and that was like the thing that I really grasped onto. I was like, this is actually an important moment. I mean, all of the things are being laid bare that were problematic. So it's a perfect time to reinvent the wheel for a lot of people. It's like you have to dig down and don't let it beat you, man. It's like you can wallow and drown, or you can rise and adapt and overcome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we talked about that we both chose to rise and overcome.
I mean, and that's all right. That's the vampire mentality, the predator. It's, no, it's like, I'm going to survive. We're going to survive. We're going to make it through this, we'll come out on top.
So let me ask you this for people, again, who are not familiar with the vampire community, or they just kind of have, movie images in their head or something like that that's not accurate. What would you tell them about the vampire community in general, like to someone who, if you came across them on the street?
It's forget all the movies, okay? That's not real life. For me and what I follow the left-hand pass, I follow Luciferianism, and it's more about taking self-responsibility for your actions, okay? And it's, if something goes wrong, what did you do in that situation, either through inaction or action to influence the outcome? That's what it's about. That's the whole mentality of the vampire thing, is becoming, the word is apotheosis, which is becoming like a god. Okay. In other words, you are responsible for everything that happens in your world, and you have to accept that. Nobody's coming to rescue you. There's no guy on a white horse and everything's fine. It's up to you. I mean, and the situation is fine. Like, we're in this situation here, and there's a lot of stagnant time, and people are wallowing and getting depressed. Like I said, we talked about earlier, it's a good time to reinvent yourself and look at things differently. How can I make this negative or positive?
Yeah, and you're right. Like we talked about how there's usually in times in the past decades that I've been around, there'll be cracks in the foundation, but then they start sealing up really quick. But then in this particular case, those cracks started spreading, they started getting bigger. And it's like, yeah, so if you want to do something, get in on it now and push it even further, or whatever works for you and what you want to be accountable for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And something else we were talking about too is that, so actually we weren't talking about this. You were telling me kind of how you got involved with the scene and things way back when. How did you get involved with the music side of things? Like what kind of bands were you listening to? What kind of artists were you listening to in the early days?
It was always the first one that I really got into was Nine Inch Nails, like the old industrial stuff. And I was in the scene when I lived in Vegas. It was when it was still new wave. It wasn't goth or anything like that. It was new wave, a little bit of punk. And I mean, you name them. I mean, I listened to everybody. I soaked that stuff up like it was a sponge. I mean, Sisters of Mercy, the darker stuff like that, the Smiths, those are all the stuff that, And then when I came to Vegas, it was funny. There was a club here, old club. I'm sure a lot of people from Pittsburgh will remember. It's called the Upstage. And I came here from Florida, and I was like, I met a guy there, and I was like, hey, you want to work here? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I got a job at the door. And lo and behold, Monday nights was goth night. I was like, hey, this is perfect, So, I mean, from there, that was my involvement here. And it was like, I may have drifted back and stayed in the shadows, and I'm doing a lot of soul searching, but it's like I never left the scene. A lot of people, I still remember from they see me and be like, oh, yeah, that guy. They may not remember the name, but they remember from back in the day.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. I've lived here in Seattle all my life. So there's some other media members that maybe be a couple of years older than me, but when we came together a few years ago, it's like we start talking about something in the 80s. Were you at this show? You had this ticket stub when it was $5, that kind of stuff. And then I think I saw you at that one show at the Paramount. And it's like, back then I had hair and all that kind of thing. and it's awesome. Yeah, you're right. I don't remember people's names per se, but I do remember their face and seeing them at certain things, especially if you had a good time with them. So it's like, yeah, the scene's strong.
Yep.
I'm just curious, especially with the underground, with industrial and goth and that kind of thing. Sometimes that also kind of bleeds over into the metal underground. Did you ever listen to any kind of metal stuff?
I mean, some of the stuff is like I'm now experienced. I got a few friends like turning me on to it, to some of the black metal and something like that. And I'm like, I'm finding interest in it. It's like, we're going more and more and more. It's like, yeah, sure, I'll check it out. And you never know until you listen.
That's true. That's very true. And it came to mind just because especially a lot of the black metal bands are very much in that left-hand path, and it's not for show; it's like for real. And it's kind of strange for me to even think. I mean, I'm thinking like I started listening to black metal in the mid to late '90s, so I mean it's been a genre for a long period of time now. So it's kind of crazy.
When I was a kid, when I was a little kid, listening to Led Zeppelin and playing the one album backwards so you can hear that one part, So it was like, yeah, it was like, so yeah, that long, you know, like it's always, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and that's true because the first band I ever saw was Kiss, and so I remember the whole Knights in Satan service that they were tagged with, and all this other kind of stuff, and in that particular case, you know, they were all about show and that kind of thing. But still, just the fact that it was brought up, it's like, what are they talking about as a kid?
Yeah.
And then finding out, yeah, later on, they start getting some bands that are really, really into practicing and the rituals and everything else that they do. It's fascinating to me.
Yeah, it was funny for me because I was raised like church going, you know, like baptized, you know, and went to a Lutheran church for a long time, and that always brought up questions for me. You know, I started listening to the metal stuff and hard rock, and started, you know, getting interested in the left hand path. And what I found, like we were talking earlier, is like it answered more questions than the other side did, you know, and that was like, you know, and that's why, I mean, I don't force it on anybody, but I was like, check it out, you know, you might be surprised. So a lot of the teachings have basis in what we call now as modern psychology. You know, a lot of it is about, you know, confronting, like I use the term a lot, it's like confronting the darkness, you know, embracing the darkness and that's looking in the mirror, man. You know, that's accepting like the parts of you that are screwed up, you know, the things that you do wrong that always cause problems. You know, part of that is that's it, accepting that. That's embracing the darkness. You know that if you have that extra drink, you become that guy. So, you know, it's like you have to accept that, you know. That's who you are. There's no denying that. And there's no wishing it away and saying like, oh, I'm going to go say 10 Hail Marys and that guy's going to disappear. No, he's still going to be there. You got to deal with him. You know, that was the realization for me with the whole thing.
Interesting. I you know, what I really like about that is that there's such a self-awareness of that, meaning that you recognize it, you know, yeah, like you said, I actually know a friend like that. He gets to drink number 9. You see a whole other person come out.
Yeah.
And he doesn't actually acknowledge it. He needs to, that, you know, that part of you is there, and and then take some accountability for the fact that maybe you need to stop at number 8.
I mean, you go to, you know, even if you go to AA or whatever program, that's part of what they do. If they tell you, you got to say to your fact, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and go, I'm an alcoholic. I know that when I get to drink number 9, this is what happens, you know? So like, I mean, duh.
You know, something I'm just curious about as you're teaching me a lot, you know, by having this discussion. So I'm really, really grateful for that. What do you tell like people that are interested in the lifestyle that are, you know, let's say they're teenagers?
Read. There's a lot of literature out there, and I think that's the basics. Is because to follow the left-hand path, it's not as easy as one would think, because the hardest thing you ever going to do is look at yourself in the mirror and go like, I'm a screw up because I'm a screw up. Nobody wants to do that, you know? So, I mean, that's where I tell everybody to start. There's a few books out there that, you know, start off and give people examples of what they can expect exploring the left-hand path. And I think that's where you need to start, you know? I wouldn't say it's not for like young kids. It's like, no, I mean, it's for anybody who wants to expand themselves and wants to take responsibility for their own life, you know? It's just, there's certain things that you have to be ready to deal with, you know, and part of that is like dealing with yourself, you know, that's the biggest boogeyman for anybody. It's like, you know, that mask got to come off, and you look in the mirror like, that's me.
Yeah, no, it's well said, and that's good information that I know for myself. You know, and I just turned 50 this year. That I'm still looking in the mirror and still, you know, trying to wrestle with certain things that I acknowledge it's there. It's like, okay, so am I cool with this? Is this something I need to change? What am I going to do about it? Because if I just ignore it, then it's like, well, it's still there and it's still going to cause issues. It's still going to do things. I need to take responsibility for it.
Yeah, yeah. And then you recognize it. Another thing that in my teaching is like, you learn that everything everybody does, everything anybody does is for some type of reward. Even if it's an endorphin rush from doing a nice thing, everybody does something for something. Once you realize that and you look at the world through that lens, things kind of make sense, you know, because you realize, I mean, as good-hearted as people say, oh, I'm doing this for the good of my soul. Yeah, but you get that good feeling and you go to sleep with that smile on your face because I did a good thing. So, yeah, I mean, the realization is like we do things for rewards, you know.
Yeah, that's, you know, as you were saying that I had to think about it, and it's like, you're right. I'm thinking like, why am I on this virtual tour right now? I get so much joy from it. I get connected to great artistic people like yourself. And it's not like I get, it's not just for making my soul pure or any of that kind of thing. It's like, no, I'm actually getting something from this.
You get something from it. And then what happens in turn is like you pass that energy on. Okay. And that's again part of the vampire mentality. It's about like acquiring energy, and then you make that energy available. You know.
Very cool. No, I'm totally digging this. I want to kind of shift gears a little bit, and even though we're for obvious reasons that the Vampires Ball went virtual this year, when you started 2 years ago, what was that first year like? What was the second year like? And then what was going to happen this year before COVID?
The first year was a heart attack, okay? Because the first year it was a total joke. Me and my friend, we were sitting at the bar and we was like, you know what? We should have a Vampires Ball. Everybody will dress up and it'll be cool. That was it. We started talking to a couple of people. Hey, you know what would be cool? Next thing you know, the word got out and people were like, hey, I hear you guys are having a Vampires Ball. And then me and them were like, oh man, now we got to put up. So yeah, so it came together in a rush, which to me showed me that the community is more united and willing to be united than they let on themselves. Because like people came in, we had a bunch of people came in and threw their time in and like money out of their pockets and just devoted time to make it happen. And the first one, it went off good. It was a little bit raw, you know, but it went off good. The second one, we pulled our pants up a little bit, you know, did a little bit more organization. And with the second one, we had an idea of where we were going, you know, with the whole concept. And we did a lot more work. You know, one of our brothers, Joe, really went over. He's the guy who built the coffin and did all this stuff that you see. I mean, came through big time. And the second one was really good. And what happened at the second one, people were raving, when are you going to do it again? When are you going to do it again? This is great. We got to do this again. We had a bigger response, you know, so we were set up. We started getting information, talked to Alice, talked to a few other bands, and, you know, I found an opportune, perfect venue, and boom. The plague, you know. They always say that, you know, vampires tend to show up during times of plague. So let's see what happens with this.
Oh man! Well, again, I'm glad that you know, it was on the up and up, and like you were saying, like the third year is going to be the biggest one, and then all this shit happened. But let's say, do you have even like a rough idea in the back of your head, like what you want to see next year be like, if we're back to normal things?
I want to have more live performances and stuff, like, I mean, more actual live performances and stuff like that. We want to expand it to where we'll have like even some classes, some couple of occult classes, like little seminars I can go on that people can attend, you know, and ask questions about lifestyle and whatever have you and stuff like that. And maybe even expand it to where it's more of a ball, where you can even have like a dinner pre-show, and then they retire after dinner, and then we go and enjoy the show and the festivities and stuff like that, you know.
Cool. Yeah. So it sounds like you have that mentality that Alice has, where it's just expand, you know, let's just build upon what our foundation is and keep going.
Yeah. I mean, I love them because it's like watching their style, and it's like, that's my vision. It's a lot of stuff they do on stage is the same kind of stuff that I see. So it's like, oh, we definitely are going to have to work together in the future for sure. I see it.
Awesome. That's great. And we were also kind of talking about this pre-show, kind of switching gears a little bit. I know you like you told me that you were in the military as a graphic artist, correct? No, graphic designer.
Graphic artist.
Okay. Awesome. Well, and one, thank you for your service. And yeah, and then you went into piercing, and then you went into tattooing. So you kind of talk about that part of your life.
Oh, tattooing. What's not to talk about? I mean, I did that, probably a little over 20 years. Been doing that. I started out, it's funny, the guy I started out with gave me a big break. You know, he hired me as a piercer, and he saw that I could draw, I'm a pretty good artist. And he asked me one day, he goes, "You ever thought about tattooing?" And I was like, kind of. I come into the shop the next day, and there's a whole setup there, you know, machines and everything. And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And he goes like, "Take it home, practice, and when you get comfortable, let me know." So I did. You know, I did a couple of them on a couple of friends who showed it to him. He goes like, "Yeah, that's pretty good." The next day I come to the shop, you know, my piercing, and there's another guy working there. He walks up to me, and the other guy tells the other guy, "You're fired. Go home. Max, you're working starting today." And I was like, holy, I mean, I think I did a tattoo as a small tribal chest piece. I think I lost about 20 pounds in sweat doing that tattoo, that first tattoo. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! And you're telling me that your style, you definitely work with black and gray portraiture.
Yep.
And
Yeah. Do portraits in black and gray and kind of like occult stuff and darker themes. But I mean, there's nothing I won't try. I mean, I always believe as an artist, you push that envelope. That's how you learn, you know. So
yeah. And with your drawing background, was that something you just picked up as a kid, or did you get some formal training in it?
it was something I picked up as a kid. All my family were artistically inclined, but then I actually went to the High School Art and Design when I was a kid in New York.
Oh.
So I went there for a few years, and of course messed that up. And being a kid in New York, all the wonderful distractions. Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned too that you started off as a piercer before you became a tattoo artist. What got you into piercing?
What got me into piercing is like I had a few friends who like had piercings, had non-standard piercings, and I was like, well, you know, like what's that about? And asked questions. And as I started learning, you know, it's like the place that I actually got a lot of my information from is, I don't even know if it's still around. I don't think it's the Gauntlet in San Francisco. And that was like, they're the people who originally started the modern piercing movement, you know. And so I did a lot of studying from them. I mean, back then I was like, I had to pretty much either make the jewelry and you buy like the 14 gauge needles from the hospital, and you have to shave the ferrules off and sterilize them. And it was a lot of work, but it wasn't commercially available and stuff like that when I started. And the only people who really were doing it was like the freaks, you know? So it was like very small community to learn from. And I've been around for a while. I've been around the piercing community for a while, man. It was like, watched it grow, you know, big time.
Okay. And just off the top of your head, how many piercings do you have personally?
I'd be like 9, 10.
Okay. And how much ink on you?
I'm pretty covered. I'm pretty covered. My chest, my back, both my ribs, my arms, sleeves on both arms. My hands are covered. Big pieces on both my legs. So I'm trying to think where to add more stuff.
So it's kind of like that whole thing of like, where am I not tattooed?
Yeah, that's it. And that was like, you got an idea of like, how do I fit it into what I got going on there now?
And this might be kind of a loaded question, but do you have a particular favorite piece on your body?
Actually, yeah, I do. Actually, there's these two little crappy little angels, like like little imps. One's an angel, one's a little devil.
Yeah.
One has, quiver, and the other one has a pitchfork. A friend of mine did one kid stretch. She's like an apprentice in the shop when I first started working, and He did them with each one, and I just love them. They mean a lot to me. It was like, that's it.
That's cool. Yeah. And, again, like we were talking about earlier, that there was that period of time when if you had before tattoos and piercings went mainstream, it's like you were supposedly a certain person if you had one of those things on your body, and then it just kind of blew up and went everywhere.
It was always weird for me too, because it's like it was a double-edged sword, because it's like not only I was a person of color, I was tattooed also. So it was like you'd walk into certain situations, and it was a weird, because they didn't know what to look at first. It's like, all right, here's this large person of color, or here's this large tattooed man. It's like, what are they scared of first? It was always this weird feeling I got. They once over, like, I don't know what to say.
When you're talking about that, it actually reminded me of a really short story that I went to, just as a fan. I went to a show here in Seattle, metal show, and I walked in being a person of color myself. And so I'm used to not seeing a lot of people that look like me at particularly metal shows. And two guys were staring at me that were already in the club. I just kind of caught their eyes. I'm kind of like, what are they staring at? And they were kind of waving to me to come over to them. So I'm like kind of apprehensive about like getting near these dudes. And they're like, we were just talking about how we never see people like us. Turns out they were Hispanic. I couldn't tell from where I was. And then we were just talking about that. And then you walked in the door and we're like, holy shit, there's an Asian guy.
That's a weird feeling. It's like you go places and you start looking like, is there anybody else like me?
Yeah. And Max, we've got about 2 minutes before we have to wrap this up. And I wanted to have you talk about what you're doing presently as a job, because I thought it was really interesting that you're working at a hospital, and but also the reason behind it.
Yeah, I decided to work in a hospital, stop tattooing for a while. And the usual thing was like, oh, you're not making no money. I was like, no, I mean, I had a good life tattooing. I enjoyed myself, got to see some places, did some traveling. And I just thought it was time to give back. It's like I was blessed. I got lucky. I got a lot of benefits from tattooing over the years. It's just like time to return the favor to the universe. That's the way I look at it. A lot of people say that's a rough job in nursing's aid. I was like, you look at it like this. Suppose that was you or your mom in that bed. That's how I look at it. It's like you hope that if you're in that situation, you meet somebody with a little bit of compassion and a little bit of understanding. But that's a shitty place to be, man.
Yeah, no, you're right, and that is a good way to have that perspective of like, what if this was my mom or a relative or someone that I care about, and that's how I want to go about my business then when I do the job.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Max, it was a pleasure getting to know you and talk with you tonight, and I'm so looking forward to everything else that's coming up here with the Virtual Vampires Vault tonight. So take good care over there, and hopefully I'll see you sooner than later.
Yes. Have a good night.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.